Welcome to There Is a Method to the Badness. I am Rob Maxwell. I am an exercise physiologist. In the Method to the Badness, I explore with you why things may or may not work in the realm of physical fitness. I use science to explain what you really need to know about current events in fitness and what you should simply ignore. Today's podcast, I'm going to talk about water and hydration. I'm going to take a little bit different spin on it. So tune in and listen. Hopefully you'll learn something. Today's podcast is brought to you by Jonathan and Lynn Gilden at the Gilden Group Realty Pros. They currently have over 275 star reviews on Zillow and over 100 million in sales between the two. They're grinders, they're workers. I absolutely vouch for them. They can be reached at 386-451-2412 or at thegildengroup.com. So I'm going to take you back in time, and if you're around my age, 56, a little bit younger, definitely older, you're going to be able to relate. Sitting around Coronado Elementary School, where I went to elementary school, go Pirates, right? And at the time, of course, nobody said go Pirates. You hated school. So what was one of the best things you could get out of being in class? Like sitting there and reading out of your history book and then passing it off to the next kid, or vice versa. Like that sucked, right? And what were you looking forward to? I want you to think. I'm going to just kind of ramble here for a second as you think. What did you look forward to? Because if you said you could not wait to read about something coming up and you were just waiting for that kid to get to that part of the paragraph that was so freaking interesting about American history, then you're a liar, or I don't want to know you. I mean, come on. Did any of us really get into that? Any of us, or am I like the oddball here and, took a long time? Anyway, so I know what I was looking forward to. Maybe somebody doing something to get in trouble, get yelled at. I had this teacher in 6th grade, Mrs. Gill. God, I hate that woman, probably to this day. Anyway, she used to give noogies. Noogies. Can you imagine today? Noogies. And the entire class, if somebody screwed up, whether it be, farted or threw something, wrote a note, I don't know, what do kids do? Trip somebody. All right, that was probably me. But if they did it, she'd look up and the entire class would start chanting, noogie, noogie. Can you imagine today? Can you imagine? Honestly, as I'm thinking about this podcast and getting ready to tell you the whole point here in a minute, I thought of that. I really had forgotten it. I blocked it out. I got so many noogies in my life, I think I still have a bald spot on that part of my head. But anyway, maybe looking forward to that. Like, okay, I hope this kid gets it today. Anticipating lunch. Maybe we're going to have those little rectangle pizzas, which aren't so bad, and potentially the rolls won't be stale today. I don't know, maybe we're allowed to play kickball at PE. Who knows? But the one thing, those things, sure. The other two things were going to the bathroom because you got a timeout from the awful learning, and getting a drink from the water fountain, right? How many times did you raise your hand? Because back then, and probably still, I don't know, or kids these days, I don't know, they have phones and who the hell knows, they definitely don't go do this, but raise your hand and say, hey, I need a drink of water, right? So if the teacher thought you were always just trying to get out of class, they might have given you a hard time and said, you're not thirsty, and back then they could say stuff like, you're not thirsty, and there's nothing you could say, but most of the time they let you go, right? Or just walking by it in the hallway, you're in line to line up for music class or whatever. You couldn't wait to get that ice frickin' cold drink of water. And you knew the water fountains that had the best water. The ones that they were out in the heat, they were kind of near the sunny side of the building. For some reason, well, not for some reason, it's pretty obvious why, but the water hose came out pretty warm at first. Like, I don't like that one. But this one over by the principal's office always has freaking ice cold water. And how great it tasted. Or when you're out at PE and you're absolutely parched because you have PE at 2 o'clock in the afternoon in Florida, and you're playing kickball and you're wearing your corduroy pants because you weren't allowed to wear shorts or whatever, and you're sweating like a pig, but you had no idea what heat index was back then, or humidity rate, or hydration, or overheated. Like, you're just a kid. Like, the things we think about now are like so not thought about then. But anyway, that water fountain tasted so freaking good, right? I mean, and so do you ever stop and think, why the hell didn't we just reach down by our desk and open up our plastic water bottle of Zephyr Hills, take the cap off, take a drink, or, open up our charming little water bottle that our mom packed for us that's, steel, aluminum, whatever, filled with ice, and take a drink. I mean, obviously I'm being facetious here, because we didn't have those things, right? We didn't have those things. Kids today would probably be wondering, do they even have, okay, I'm wondering this. I'm going to ask you, and please somebody answer this question for me. Do they have water fountains at schools anymore? I mean, I'm assuming not, and if they did before COVID, they probably don't now. I mean, and maybe there's a plus to that. I mean, I can remember being a kid, and every kid would slobber all over the water fountain. I can remember, like, there literally were signs up that said, "Don't stick your mouth on it." It's like, oh God, who does that? It's like, sadly, I just pictured 3 kids I know that were notorious for it. So, drinking after these kids wasn't overly enjoyable. So I can imagine today that it's not an option anymore. I'm guessing, but I don't know. But anyway, kids would have no idea because kids have water bottles, and obviously, you've been listening to me long enough that I kind of throw in some humor and sarcasm and stuff, and I am, but we all do it now, right? I mean, I picked that scenario because this is what my brain does sometimes at 2 o'clock in the morning. And I was, wait a minute. It's like, we didn't have water bottles as kids. We didn't walk around with tiny little water bottles. And, now in every kid's backpack for school, and by the way, we didn't have those either. We had to carry our damn books. Anyway, they had that little spot in the backpack that you can fit your water bottle in, and some fancy backpacks even come with water bottles. It's like, what the hell? And by the way, I'm not bashing kids for this. Like, again, if you've listened to me long enough, I kind of take the other road on that. It's like, we created them, so like, why don't we just all quit bashing generations under us, because it's kind of really silly, and we absolutely sound like that get off my lawn guy. So, and it's just flat out not true. So, like, whatever we're bashing them for, we do it, or we taught them, so whatever. But everybody does it. So I want to talk about that. Everybody walks around with a frickin' water bottle now. You can't get in a car with somebody without them carrying their water bottle. They don't come to the gym without their water bottle. You're thinking, yeah, but what's wrong with that? Well, I'm going to get into that. First off, I want you to use a little common sense. Do people work harder today than they did 40 years ago? 45 years ago, if I want to take myself back to elementary school when we all went to the water fountain. Do people work harder today physically? All right? I think we all know no. The answer is no. I think we all know the answer is no. They don't. We work less hard, right? More places have air conditioning everywhere you go. I mean, there were times back then we didn't have air conditioning in school. We went anyway. Today they'd probably cancel school. Again, not blaming the kids. Actually, blame lawyers, right? So, no, we don't work harder today. We work less hard, right? So then if we work less hard, then our need for certain things to recover at least isn't more than it used to be, right? The answer is correct. So how often did we hear of major incidents of people being dehydrated in the 1960s and 1970s. I don't mean in sports. We've learned a lot regarding that. I understand that football coaches took this too far in the olden days, and they didn't know that the people needed water, and but that's long gone. I'm talking about like just in general society, walking around. You're not working out. You're not working out. You're not out doing your lawn. I'm just talking about you're driving your car to work and you can't go without your water bottle. Is that necessary? Is it madness, or is there a method behind it? Well, yeah, there's a method behind it. It's called marketing. So one of the best things that these water companies ever did was first come up with single-serve water bottles, right? So that's the first thing they did. But then they had to sell that you need it. And marketing does an absolutely fantastic job of coming up with more consumers. If you just come out with all the water bottles and everything, Zephyr Hills, whoever, come up with it all, okay, that's one thing. You're like, okay, but that's kind of expensive for this. But then if you start the whole, hydration thing, and let's get someone looks like pretty reputable people to sell all this to the people, you're going to create constant consumers. And they've done a great job with that. Now look, I'm an exercise physiologist. I train outside. I'm not saying you don't need hydration. You absolutely do. I'm just trying to bring you back a little bit. I'm just trying to knock you back to middle ground. Back in the, let's knock you to a place where we didn't drink any water at all and they're carrying people off for heat stroke on football fields for football practice, and to today where you need your Zephyr Hills 12-ounce single-serve water bottle just to drive to the store, or quite frankly, just to go to the gym. Because unless you are basically using up all of your body's water during a workout, you don't really need to replace it all. So a person exercising in the heat can burn up to 2 liters of water an hour, absolutely, if they're in the heat and the humidity. So what happens is, because we're hot, and I think everybody knows this, but I'm going to explain it anyway. Because we're hot, we sweat. That is our way, our animal type way, human beings' way of cooling off, is the water evaporates on the skin, and so therefore we cool off. That is why we sweat. So the hotter it is outside, and the more humid it is outside, the more we sweat. Now, that water absolutely needs to be replaced. There's no question about it. And when you're humid, the water doesn't when it's humid, I should say, the water does not evaporate like it should. So it just stays on your skin like you're soaking wet. I had that experience yesterday when I ran. I was drenched. That sweat did not evaporate off my body because it was too freaking humid. So therefore my body stayed even warmer, which meant I was sweating even more. It just wasn't evaporating. So I was using up even more body fluid, water. All right? So yes, that needs to be replaced. And you need to replace that with roughly 24 ounces, 32 ounces of water per hour. So a lot of studies say 6 ounces every 20 minutes. That's, the same thing, 24 ounces. You can't go wrong with the 24 ounce, 32 ounce, 24 to 32 ounce figure. Okay, so that is replacing the hydration. Now, first off, you can't really take in more than that because your body isn't going to be able to use it in time, absorb it, and get it onto your skin in time. So you really can't I should say you can overdo it. So you really shouldn't overconsume it. It's not doing you a lot of good. Just remember you need around 24 to 32 ounces of H2O with some little electrolytes, but that's not what this is about, every hour when you are sweating, okay? But when you're not sweating, you are not utilizing nearly as much water. You're just not. Now, there's nothing wrong with having a little hydration here or there. Of course, you want to keep your body hydrated before you even go outside. I get that. But most of us simply overdo it. We have to remember that the whole purpose of hydrating for exercise was due to the fact that we sweat. So our sweat has to be replaced. So let's say you're going to the gym. How much are you really sweating? I will see people go through their 24-ounce water bottle within 20 minutes of their workout. Is that bad? It's just unnecessary. It just means you don't understand the purpose of drinking water while you work out. Repeat after me. Ready? It is to replace the water lost from sweat. Ready? Let's say it again. It is to replace the water lost through sweat. Okay? If you are not sweating a lot, you do not need that much more hydration than normal. All right? And when you strength train, which is the biggest reason people go to the gym, at least to a personal training gym. Now, if they're going to LA Fitness or some of these other gyms to jump on the cardio machines, that's fine. And you might sweat more doing cardio, running, biking. I get all that. But if you're going to the gym to lift weights to strength train, you're probably not sweating that much. It's not that type of activity that really cranks up the metabolism that much. It is great. Of course it's great. It builds strength. You're not sweating that much. Okay? So, my challenge to you, and maybe it just kind of gets to me a little bit because I think of it from an environmental standpoint. Do we really need to be like buying all these plastic water bottles and driving around with them and then throwing them away? It's like, man, so that's a lot of waste. I mean, that is a lot of plastic. So do we really need that? That's one end of it, of course. The other end is just, the method to the madness, the thing I always talk about. It's like, are we so easily conned that it just takes some marketing people to make people think they need to do things so much differently than we did it 45 years ago? Where are people's like common sense where they can look back and go, oh, that's true. I mean, I used to be parched, thirsty, right? And I was okay. Sure, we need to stay properly hydrated, but didn't we used to do that by having maybe a glass of water with dinner, glass of water with lunch, glass of water with breakfast, and then if we were going to train outside, play tennis outside, play racquetball outside, nowadays play pickleball outside, golf, yeah, you got to replace the sweat. Absolutely. But driving to the store, driving to the gym, driving everywhere you go, you got your water bottle sitting in class, you got your water bottle, thirsty. No. I mean, you've been schooled, you've been conned, right? So here's the best way you can go about it from here on out. How often do you go to the bathroom a day? How often do you pee? If you pee about 5 times a day, that's pretty good. That's pretty normal. That's the average. If you're peeing a lot more than that, you're probably over drinking. So another way to gauge it is every 4 hours. If you're peeing a lot more than that, you're probably drinking too much water. Another way to look at it is have a glass of water with your meals. That's just a simple way to get it done. Keep in mind, all this seltzer water we drink, all the LaCroix, which I drink a lot, that's hydration too. That's hydration too. And then, most importantly, because that's what this podcast is about, your health and fitness, when you're going to sweat a lot, think about replacing it. 24 to 32 ounces of water per hour when you're going to be sweating. Then after that, replace some of it, and you can do that simply by weighing yourself. If you lost weight during your workout, you need to replace with some fluids. Have 8 ounces of water, weigh again in an hour and see. It's really simple. So in other words, don't be the monkey see, monkey do. Oh, I see society walking around with water bottles, I have to do it. No, think about the method to the madness. What is water for? What's hydration for? In the sense of fitness and exercise, is to cool you off. 24 to 32 ounces. Weigh yourself after workouts if you feel like you've been dehydrated. Just make sure you're drinking during sweaty workouts. and then the rest of the time go, I'm good, And by the way, the myth that if you get to the point that you're thirsty, you're already too dehydrated, that has not been brought out in research. That's just, once again, throwing fear tactics at you to make sure you drink this gallon of water every day so you never get thirsty. I mean, weren't you thirsty as a kid, right? And then you go to the water fountain and you sit there for 10 seconds and maybe, you knock the kid out of line behind you and you jump back in and you take another long swig for 10 seconds. I mean, weren't you kind of good after that? Weren't you pretty satiated? I think so. So, all right, tackle that. I think that's a fun one. I've been waiting for that one because, I don't know, I just like looking at what people do. And I, not individually, I mean, we're all conned, but just like, man, are we such a monkey see, monkey do society? And when are we going to really stop and think about things, like what things are actually for, like why do we drink water, right? And by the way, yes, it has more purpose than simply replacing your sweat. But can't we all start just to kind of critically think a little bit and not just be such consumers and be falling for every little thing that comes down the pike? I mean, I would hope we could. I don't know. I'm going to do my part. And I'm sure I pissed some people off. And you know what? That's okay. I don't mind one bit. So let me thank our second sponsor, the Istanbul Turkish Mediterranean Cuisine. Go in there. Tell them you just want a glass of water. Just kidding. Glass of water with a nice salad, a nice vegetarian dish. They'll take care of you. They're located up on Young Street, Norman Beach. They can be reached at the IstanbulFlorida.com. You can place your order. Until next time, be Max Fit, be Max Well.